the great pleasure to introduce Lexie Hain. Lexie is a farmer from the Finger Lakes, and she's co-founder of Agrivoltaic Solutions to capitalize on the new business opportunity of grazing under and around solar panels. She also founded the American Solar Grazing Association, which is really quite incredible because the work has been growing, and she's leading the charge to grow this opportunity for other sheep farmers in particular, and to create best management practices for the industry. So please give Lexie a warm welcome.
Actually, that's a picture of the same sheep flock that David just showed. This is a Cornell solar array. So I do have to give Cornell, and in fact, sustainability departments around the world at universities the credit for really paving the way for solar grazing internationally. Because it's these universities with these mandates that went out front and said, we're going to do this anyway, 10 years ago. And then one way or the other, all of a sudden, sheep find their way onto these solar farms that are ground-mounted solar and not especially built for that because, the mowing equipment is stuck in the mud again, and the landscaper might just happen to have a sheep flock at his brother's farm and said, I think these might do a better job. So, my background, I have two things I'm trying to do simultaneously and keeps me reasonably out of trouble. So the first, just the main reason I'm here today, is this American Solar Grazing Association. We are really a band of farmers and a few researchers. We're all New Yorkers, and we all saw this need that if we can just do this right, this is a fundamentally amazing opportunity to send a lifeline, and I think of it as like a dollar's lifeline from the energy industry, which is getting this mandate and help pull up and prop up a sector, and then first one sector and then maybe many sectors of the agricultural economy. So ASGA, as we call it, it's just shorter, simpler. What are we doing now? Many things. You can go to our website. The things that we love to do is really outreach. We take community groups. We take, in this case, actually, it's a group of people from NYSERDA, the same people writing this legislation, and some are actually here in this room. We take them to solar arrays and we say, you want to come and see how this works? So we basically demystify this entire experience. We say, this is fantastic. Here's how it goes. Here's a local sheep farmer. Here's how it works for her. Here's how the income works, etc. The other thing we do is we're promoting solar grazing research, and we're also just trying to centralize it. Solar grazing is, I guess, as I said earlier, not actually new. It's been happening in Europe for, let's say, at least a decade. And it's been happening in other states for, at this point, in some cases 5 years, in some cases 6, 7, 8 years, and at scale. So this is one project here we'll see at Cornell University, where it's an array, 55 acres, the sheep are grazing, a site where we're also monitoring for pollinator plants, pollinator host plants, and insects, and then we are also looking at the soils for looking at carbon sequestration across those different gradients. So we are also just basically trying to do some matchmaking. We have a broad vision, but we are matchmaking between farmers and basically getting the information out there about this pretty neat opportunity, because the general idea is that all the folks who founded ASGA are all farmers who are using sites that I would call retrofits. They're sites that were built, and then afterwards you say, oh, look, we're a solar company in the vegetation management business. Looky here. So all of us farmers are coming in and saying, okay, well, we have to tweak this over here and tweak that over there, and so on. So by now you've heard all these terms, but often when I do these talks, I have to introduce the vocabulary. This is a 200-acre solar site near an hour west of Ottawa, owned and managed by EDF Renewables. One thing that's amazing about the solar grazing I didn't expect, and it's really true. Here's a picture of rural Australia, and you would think, oh, Australia's first for solar grazing. No. The University of Queensland and their Sustainability Center built an outreach center at one of their research stations where they had 3 different types of solar. And they were the ones who then started turning around, brought farmers in, brought developers in, and started turning around communities who otherwise had serious NIMBY problems. So this is Princeton University. These are single-axis trackers. New Jersey has a lot of tracker systems. These are all sheep. I don't get into other small ruminants on solar arrays. Please don't try other small ruminants on solar arrays. Okay. Later, maybe, probably won't have time, but if you go live, I just took a couple little videos this summer of my sheep on solar arrays showing their behavior, showing their noise. People are so detached from agriculture these days, and when I go out and talk to people, they're like, won't they be so loud? I don't want livestock near my farm or near my house, in this case. Like, okay, so I've started taking videos to show like the sound of sheep chewing grass. And the sound of the insects as you're walking through, because you usually can barely hear the sheep because there's so many insects in these arrays. It's amazing. So as you see, so here's one of my sheep under some solar panels, standard ground mount. This is 1 megawatt, 4.5 acres. The sheep get right under there. They don't hurt themselves. They walk right under, and they have ample shade. They don't have to compete for that shade. It's the kind of thing where if you are a livestock farmer, you can't wait. You're like, I'm gonna buy a shade structure because there's all these health benefits for your livestock. But you don't have to do that. You can just get someone else to build you a solar array so you have very healthy sheep. Okay, and that's a picture I found off the internet, but when I'm looking at dollars per dollars, I am often seeing, when I see these quotes for vegetation maintenance, what the landscapers are quoting is managing the alleys. They are not quoting for that. And that is incredibly detrimental if you're in the solar business. Okay, here's this well-being. This is a site in Virginia. These are trackers. Basically, the general idea, and we did get the first study with Cornell's Atkinson Center for a Sustainable Future to do some documenting of this, is with good management practices, which we can talk about more, but certain types of rotational grazing, certain checks on your livestock, your sheep can be perfectly healthy on those arrays. Guardian animals, if anyone's wondering what I'm talking about, there's a whole culture around dogs that protect your sheep. Maybe a llama, maybe a donkey, that kind of thing. But being allowed to have that may be important. And that's another conversation with the solar firms. So using sheep and using them properly reduces and eliminates. I'm not going to say whose solar arrays these are, but it's everything from, especially in drier conditions or in conditions where, many of these developers have figured out it doesn't make economic sense to grade the site perfectly so that you can, drive your mower down perfectly and it won't hit any rocks. Many of these sites are really undulating and rough and rocky. Picture when last time you saw a picture of Ireland or Scotland, where are the sheep? They're climbing some hillside, right? They don't care. So in terms of destroying the integrity of the solar array, sheep are the way. And also talking about landscapers, other people, basically the competition in many cases is people standing there with weed whackers for hours under panels. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. Okay, here's some more of my sheep. And this is having conversations with farmers. And this is something that we at ASGA are trying to do and setting up some more mechanisms where you can communicate more effectively. But the important things are what kind of sheep can I use? I'm this is a business, figure out what kind of sheep you want to raise. You want to be in the wool business, be in the wool business. You'll be fine. Pick the right animal for you. All sheep really should work fine. And then the other thing that we should get to is, especially after the construction phase is really over and the site is established, and especially if you are going to plant with a smart planting plan in mind, you shouldn't have any reduction in your stocking density or the number of animals that you would have in a traditional pasture. And I call these solar pastures. Okay, you can just get this right from SEIA, the Solar Energy Industries Association. Just talks about how much solar is built, ground mounted in the United States. Just some trends there for you. And then what we look at here. Here's this trend. And the reason I brought this up, I added this little yellow. So every 5 to 7 acres is per megawatt. So if you start looking at acres and megawatts, you can start figuring out, okay, I do this in terms of sheep. How many sheep are we going to need per acre, per megawatt? And this is sort of funny, but also sort of when I'm starting to talk to people like the American Lamb Board and the American Sheep Industry Association, and they're telling me that Americans import more than 60% of the lamb we eat. And where do we get it from? It has a 10,000-mile trip. So yeah, I think we could do better with local and regional if we just grazed our solar arrays. Okay, this is a map I made. And so it's based on communications with farmers, calls, visits. I've been to many of these arrays. So green is places that are actively solar grazing, states that have that. And my forecast is here in the peach color of places I'm hopeful based on conversations I've had with developers and farmers. Also, just for fun, the top sheep producing states in the United States are Texas 1 and then like a bunch right in here. So that's also kind of interesting. And the biggest markets, of course, are right here. And lamb is the #1 product from sheep, in case you're wondering. Wool and other products are kind of lower down there. Okay, I should probably hurry through some of this. But basically what I'm seeing is there's a bunch of different models and ways that this can occur. You have the on-farm model. This is a project in Vermont. There's another one I just visited in it's near Guelph in Ontario that actually was even more amazing because it was so integrated into the on-farm planning. 2,000-acre farm, they rent another 3,000 acres, all different kinds of commodity crops. The two farm brothers went to the UK and researched and thoroughly documented how solar was built with grazing in mind, and they built 150 acres of solar, and they treat that solar just as a solar pasture, but then they also get that income. And they talk to me, we talk dollars and cents. It's essential to their farming operation. Here, this is another one. Actually, these are also Canadian farmers. And I'd recommend their website, their YouTube channel. So these Shady Creek Lamb Company, their farm is located about 5 miles from this 200-acre array. They've been able to expand their operations. They've been able to take guardian dogs and keep them on the site. This is my grazing business. I just had to show, so some of the infrastructure you need is you need to be able to collect the sheep at the end of the season. You need a way to transport them. Here I am setting up some netting because you have to, when you're rotating them, you have to partition these sites into smaller sections to get effective management. Oh, and you have to be able to get the sheep where you're going. I have a sheep call, I'm not doing it. Maybe later. Okay, so another model. This is a sheep farmer in New Jersey. It's kind of like a sheep farmer on Long Island. There's one in the room, who has a satellite operation where she has a rotation of every day she goes to visit a different one of her arrays all season long. She built a new barn last year and a second new barn this year. She's expanding operations. It's tremendous. And just to be clear, every single one of these farmers, this is one of the main reasons I was like, we need ASGA. Every one of these farmers is paid by the solar developers. There's no question about that. You have to be paid. So it really flips the traditional model where farmers pay to graze. No, this is a vegetation management service, and we have to help the solar companies meet their performance guarantees. This is a pretty neat array where Frank Couturier, the farmer here, he's also part of California Fiber Shed, which I recommend looking up. Very neat. He's worked with 6 different owners of this site in 6 years, but he grazes about 1,800 sheep on this solar array, and he has specific California conservation goals, and he has the rare San Joaquin kit fox, endangered, that lives on the site. There are now more kit foxes inside the site than outside the site. Okay, there are neat new businesses springing up. This is one that's been around for a few years and is expanding. Really like these folks for their model because it's a comprehensive operations and maintenance service. The solar provider can just pick up the phone, and these folks show up and they have a livestock management division and an experienced farmer. Oh, it's okay. Who's doing that? Delaware River Solar is a New York-based firm. Jonathan Barter, raise your hand. He's managing their solar grazing operation here in New York State. We also have some pretty big players getting in the room. For example, Silicon Ranch is an initiative of Shell Energy. They've patented regenerative energy. Here they come. I'm in conversations with them. You should go to our website and look at this, but we've broken out a bunch of different business models to help farmers understand what they're getting involved in if they're going to do this, either on their farm or if they're going to start their own targeted grazing operation. I did get I used some intravenous funding in New York, which is part of the Article 10 process to fund one of these. So this is, don't worry about reading this. You can just go to our website and look at it. This was for an on-farm development. And income per dollar per year. And value-added products, potentially from solar. Other places are doing it. Here's North Carolina, and here is Pacific Northwest with their honey. I'm gonna have to, do I have 2 more minutes? I'm really done. Okay. Okay, basically I want the solar firms to work with farmers and have a formal process for that. I think that's invaluable because it will save a lot of time and add to efficiency. And they are, of course, much cuter than solar panelists alone. Okay, yes. And please visit us for what we're able to do for you and join our group, NREL. And thank you so much.